Hi friends, welcome to my channel. I'm Lisa, also known as Fiber Nymph, and today is Friday, March 31st. It is very rainy here at the Mountain House, and being out here in the porch room, the rain is usually pretty loud, so if it picks up and you can hear it, I apologize, but it's the weather. I don't have any control, and since it's a dark, rainy day, there was no good light anywhere else in the house, so here we are. How are you? I hope you're well. If this is your first time watching one of my videos, thank you so much for checking out the channel. And if you are a return viewer, it's lovely to have you back. Thank you for stopping by. So, how has the second half of your March been? Mine's been good. It's been very busy. I'm going to share with you a whole bunch of stuff that I've been working on, both work-wise and craft-wise, and talk about some other stuff aside from all that as well. I'm going to start by getting some administrative stuff out of the way first. Things that I just want to draw your attention to. My show notes are over here on my laptop, so if I keep turning this way, that's why. I need to look at them. But I first want to just let you know that the 2023 holiday countdown collections for this year are now up in the shop for pre-order. The theme is a Middle-earth winter. And if you know me, you know I am super stoked about this theme. It is exactly what it sounds like. The colorways are all going to be themed according to the nature shades of Middle-earth and the landscape and the peoples and creatures that dwell in that area, with an overlay of a winter theme. So it's, I'm calling it sort of fan fiction in yarn and fiber. Yeah, fan fiction in yarn and fiber. So anyway, there's a whole lot more description to it in the shop listing. One thing I will mention that's different in this year's than I've ever done before is part of the purchase of your collection will be that you will also be getting an exclusive pre-order access to colorways that I'm going to be bringing out later this year from a collection called Middle-earth Imagined. I am so excited about that as well. I've been planning these colorways literally for years. It just was never quite the right time to do it, and this year is when I'm doing them. So Middle-earth Imagined, you'll get a special early access period to them before they even go in the shop for pre-order, as well as a 15% discount. So that's like your big extra for the collections this year. Hopefully there's some of you out there who are Tolkien and Lord of the Rings nerds like me, and that will be really exciting to you. Anyway, again, go ahead and check out the listing to see all of the details, all of your options. Again, this year there are yarn and fiber options, 20 gram minis, 10 gram minis, and a fiber option as well. I'm not doing any 12 sets. Last year I did 24 and 12. They're all 24 this year. But everything else is the same. And again, you can get day 25 without getting a collection if that's all you're interested in. But again, check out the listing for all those details. That's up in the shop now. The pre-orders will be up through at least June 15th, though some of the bases that I'm offering are in a limited quantity, so those could sell out prior to that. So if you want to check that out. Two of the bases that will be in there this year that have never been in before is Linnaeus, which is the yak base, the merino yak nylon base. And my Mountain Tweed Merino DK. That is going to be one of the options as well. I'm super excited to be able to include those this year. So anyway, check that out. And if you ever have any questions about it, feel free to email me, lisa@fibernymphworks.com, and I'd be happy to try to help you out. So that is one thing going on. Speaking of pre-orders, if you pre-ordered any of the Wild Atlantic colorways that I had in the shop a couple weeks ago, Your pre-orders have shipped out for the Wild Atlantic colorways, so the wildflowers and the pub vibes. Those have shipped unless you also ordered one of the Pie Week custom order colorways. If you ordered both of those together, your Wild Atlantic stuff will ship once your Pie Day colorway is ready to go out. So just letting you know that, but they're all underway and they should all be out probably within the next week or so. What else? Show season is coming, and I know I've mentioned these in passing, but I'm going to mention them now too. My first show of the season will be Frederick Fiber Fest in Frederick, Maryland at the Frederick Fairgrounds. Lots of Fredericks there. And that is on Saturday, April 22nd. Yes, April 22nd. So if you're in that area, please stop by. I would love to see you. And then my next spring show after that is a new one. It's the Fayette County Fiber Festival, which is going to take place in Dunbar, PA, which is not very far from me at all. So I'm super happy to have one right in my home area, and that will be on Saturday, May 20th. So those are both coming up. I'm deep in show prep mode right now, but it's all good, and I'm really looking forward to getting back to doing shows because it's been a couple of years. Well, it's been since March of 2020 that I've done a show, so it'll be nice to get back out there and see people in person. Okay, the other thing I wanted to mention to you is that by tomorrow, I will have the March SSOY MAL prize winners to announce. Today's the 31st, so I can't do them today. But what I'm going to do, rather than making you wait all the way till the first April episode, is I'm going to record the main part of this episode today, and then tomorrow morning I can do the prize draws, and I will record that segment tomorrow, and I will just insert it into today's episode. So stay tuned in this episode because it won't really matter to you. You're going to see it all at once. But that's how I'm going to do that, just so that I can make sure I can get those March prize winners announced in a timely manner rather than making you wait like you had to do in February, or for the February winners, because I got those out kind of mid-March. So anyway, those will be in this episode. I'm just not going to record that section today. So this episode will probably go up late Saturday or possibly early Sunday. Depends on how things work out. Okay, I think that's everything I was going to give you the heads up about. Oh, I was going to mention what I'm wearing, and actually that leads right into the crafting part of the podcast. I am wearing my fingering weight sample of my shawl that I'm designing, which is that moss stitch shawl. It does have an official name now. I'm going to wait until I actually publish the pattern, though, to let you know what the name is, just because I feel like it. So we're just going to refer to it currently as my moss stitch shawl design. And so here, I'll get a little closer. So this is very lightweight, very drapey, and because of the way you block this shawl, it just opens that moss stitch up and softens the texture, and I just love it. It is so fluid. It's making me so very happy. So anyway, this is on my bounce base, and this is actually a colorway that I am dyeing specifically for this design. I mean, it'll be in the shop. You could buy it for anything, but I dyed it with this design in mind. Here, I'm going to take this off just so you can see it better up close. I'm not sure if I can get it to focus. So this is my bounce base. The background is the natural color, and then there's really light. It's not even speckling. It's painted on, it's brushed on, colors of blue and very pale lavender and very light yellow. This colorway is called Rainbow Moonstone. I meant to bring a piece of Rainbow Moonstone in. Maybe I'll try to put a picture up here if I can find one for you. I love Rainbow Moonstone. I love the flash of colors that you get in it. And that's what I was trying to represent in there in this colorway. So that's what this is. Sorry. Let me see if I can put it back on. It's actually kind of chilly out here, even though I have the heat on. So yeah, I mean, it's the same as the DK Weight one that, let's see, you didn't see the full one. Actually, I'm going to show you the full one yet too. Here, I'll do that now. So the last time I recorded, actually, I didn't show you whips last time, did I? Okay, see, it's been too long. All right, so I also did a 2 skein DK Weight version. I'm writing this so you can do it either in fingering weight or DK Weight, 1 skein or 2 skeins. So this is the single fingering weight skein version. This is the 2 skein DK Weight version, which obviously is a lot larger. And this colorway is Chrysocolla, so it's another rock and gem stone themed colorway. So basically it is an end to end shawl. You weigh your yarn at the beginning, you work till you get about halfway, and then you start decreasing. It is moss stitch, and it has this lovely little garter stitch eyelet border the whole way down and back. And what's really cool about it, because it's moss stitch and garter stitch with this eyelet, it's completely reversible. Like, it looks the same on either side, basically. So I think it's really cool. Here, I'll show you the, I mean, you can get the idea, but I'll show you what the bigger one looks like on. Oh, it's just so squishy. The DK Weight one is so squishy. The fingering weight one is so nice and light. It'll be a great kind of shawl scarfy kind of thing to wrap around yourself in those cooler nights or evenings in the spring and summer. But this one is nice and squishy. So yeah, I mean, this is the way I've been wearing them, just when I've been playing with them. The DK Weight one is actually big enough that you could wrap it around you as a shawl. I have not done a 2 skein fingering weight one yet. I have a colorway in mind that I'm going to dye to do that one. So that'll be my next one on the needles. You think I'm probably going to get tired of knitting these, but they're actually really relaxing if you enjoy doing moss stitch. Now, I realize that moss stitch is not everybody's cup of tea. It's sort of like ribbing. You have to really enjoy purling to enjoy doing that back and forth of the moss stitch. I do. I love moss stitch. I don't mind ribbing, so it's been a joy for me. But okay, so here's how you can see it. Here you can see it. This is how deep that goes. Okay, so the pattern is in testing right now. It's with my test knitters. I am hopeful that I'll be able to get it released by the end of April. That's my hope. But I'm also trying to not put like tons of pressure on my test knitters. So I'll get it out as soon as I can. Again, I'm super happy with how my samples have turned out. I think most of my test knitters are enjoying it. So we'll see how it goes. But anyway, so that is my design shawl, and that's my first. Oh, actually, that's not all of them here. I'm working on a single skein DK Weight one. Now, if you remember, the very first one I knit was with my January personal stash. No, yes. Personal Stash Yarn Challenge yarn, which was some Dusty Tree Dye Works yarn. So it wasn't my yarn, and I didn't have the pattern even in mind. I kind of designed it as I went with that one. And that was a DK Weight yarn, but I wanted to do it out of one of my yarns as well, just to see the difference, because my yarns are all very different than that first yarn. So this is my single skein DK Weight sample that I'm knitting it out of right now, and this colorway is Amethyst. So that is underway. I have 2 other colorways that I've dyed up that I have not used in samples at this point. This one, oh, that's getting really blown out. Sorry, let me back it up. Maybe I think it's just going to get blown out in this light. There, if I take it closer, this is rose gold. No, rose quartz, not rose gold. Oh my gosh. So it's a very soft tonal, a very subtle tonal. And then this one is Adventurine. Again, a very subtle tonal. So, and this one's on Bonafide, this one's on Beguiled. My amethyst sample is also on my Bonafide base. Okay, yes, the next project that I have to show you is a finished object that turned into several finished objects. So I know I had shown you my March 2023 Personal Stash Yarn Challenge yarn, which was 2 skeins of Maddfuzzy yarn that I picked up in Maine when Bill and I were on a motorcycle trip there a couple summers ago. And when I bought it, I knew I was going to weave with it, and that's what I did. And I thought I had planned it out so that I would have used almost all of the yarn. And I don't believe I miscalculated my warp, but I think I mismeasured my warp whenever I actually warped the loom, because it came out shorter than I had planned. I still love it. I absolutely love it. Like, I'm so happy with how this turned out. I love the fabric. I love the way the colors turned out. Now, I wove this to be a houndstooth pattern, but because both of the skeins of yarn were variegated, one was a lighter with a lot of yellows in it, and the other one was darker with the darker oranges and burnt oranges and reds in it. It's not super obvious that it's a houndstooth, but you can definitely see that houndstooth kind of plaid effect going on in this. I'm so happy with this, and it's, like I said, it's shorter than I had actually set out to make it, but it is plenty long enough for me because this is the way I like my scarves. I have to tell you, I love the fabric. Now the darker yarn was a little bit lighter weight than the lighter yarn. They were both DK weights, but there was a weight difference. So it gives it a little bit of texture due to that. But when I soaked it, both of the yarns plumped up so nicely that there's just, it's still drapey. They're both non-superwash yarns, so there's a little bit of stick to it, so it's got body, but it's still drapey. I'm just super happy with this scarf. Like, I love it. I think it's probably the favorite thing I've ever woven. My favorite weaving project that I've done to date. So I'm definitely keeping this. This one is mine. I'm happy to have it done. However, when I was finished with it, I still had a ton of yarn left. And I have not actually figured out how much yarn went into this scarf versus what went into these other 2 things that I'm going to show you here in a second. But I didn't want to have to wind the leftover yarn off of the stick shuttles because, number one, it's a pain in the butt to do that. As far as I'm concerned, I hate having to do that. But number 2, I wanted to use it. Like, that was my challenge, was to use as much of this yarn as I could. Now, the lighter weight yarn that was bulkier, a bulkier DK, had less yardage than the other one. So I knew I was going to have some left over of the lighter weight yarn, which was this darker color. But what I ended up doing is I decided I was going to warp my smaller loom. I did do this on my larger loom. Did I mention that? I don't remember. I did this on my 24-inch rigid head of loom only because I wanted the width to end up being 10 inches. And if I use my 10-inch rigid heddle, there's always shrinkage width-wise, and it always ends up being about 9 inches. So I wanted to make sure I had the full width. Like, you can see the difference here. Like the small one I did on, or this one I did on my smaller loom. So there is a little less width there. Anyway, so I warped my smaller loom, my 10-inch loom. I didn't want to use these yarns though, because I knew I wouldn't get very much. So what I did is I went into my stash. I have not dealt with these long ends yet. I went into my stash and I pulled out 4 colors of non-superwash leftovers that I happen to have on hand. The brown and the green are both my ridgetop fingering that I just had in leftovers. And then this yellowy color, it's kind of a yellow-green in person. It's looking yellow here. And this orange. These are some Upton yarns that I used years ago for a hat. but I had a little bit left over, and this is, let me see, what was the blend? Cotswold Ronnie fingering. A much lighter weight fingering just in general. It was a very lightweight fingering, but it was even lighter than my ridgetop fingering. So I alternated them because I also had more of these two than I did of these two. These two I think I mostly used up doing the warp. And then I made larger sections of the yellow and the orange. And so that's what I used for the warp. And then I tried, I'm not going to go into details. I started weaving one thing using both of the yarns alternatingly. I was trying an experiment. It didn't work. I got about 5 inches into it. I hated how it looked. So I unpicked all of that, which is also kind of a pain if you've ever tried undoing weaving. And I decided instead that I was just going to use them one at a time. So this one here, this piece, is used up all the rest of the light colored Maddfuzzy. And it is not long enough to be a scarf. It is going to be a table runner. And this is going to go in my shop as soon as I get these ends taken care of. I am going to list this in the shop. I love how it turned out, and I think the colors are beautiful. I think it's really fun and autumnal. But yeah, I think I'm going to put this in the shop. Oh gosh. See, I shouldn't say that so definitively. If this fits on top of my piano, I may just keep it. I don't know. We'll see. My plan, though, is to put it in the shop. So I did that one, and when I was done with that yarn, I hem-stitched it while it was still in the loom, and then I put a couple of spacers in, and then I started weaving with the same warp the rest of my, the darker color. I ran out of warp before I ran out of the darker color yarn, so I do still have this much left of this, but this was the one that I had more yardage of anyway, so I was pretty much always gonna end up with more or some of this left over. But yeah, so this is another mat. It's just a little bit shorter. I need to block this edge again. This edge is doing something weird, but it'll be fine once I block it, and it will also, or it will be in the shop. So I'm really having fun with these, and I love the weaving with this yarn. It was such a delight, and doing this alternating weft, I just love how the colors played with that too. All worked out great. So I did use up my March personal stash yarn challenge yarns. Which also makes me happy because that's one of my goals, right? Okay, so let's move on from that. Another project that I'm working on and that also has involved some ripping out and redoing is a crochet project. And the yarn that I'm using for it is this. This is some Rowan felted tweed. I had 2 balls of this, and this was actually I'm going to say it was either my October or my November personal stash yarn challenge yarn from last year. I think it was November. I could be wrong though. No, I'm pretty sure it was November. Anyway, that was one of the ones that I didn't get to use last year. So I pulled it out and decided I was going to make this crocheted cowl that I had seen in a video on YouTube. It looks like this, which I know it doesn't look like a whole lot at the moment, but I'll explain how it works in a minute. And I may if I can scoop a picture, I'll put it in here. This is the Vanilla Button Cowl by Fiberflux, who is Jennifer Dickerson. I have done her pattern, at least one of her patterns before. I love her YouTube channel though. She posts free patterns and stuff all the time, and she does a lot of tutorial videos, which is great for somebody who is not as proficient a crocheter as I would like to be. So the videos are really nice. Anyway, so her version of this was done with a much puffier yarn, like a superwash worsted weight yarn. So it had much more of a puffy factor to it. Sorry, getting dry. But I really wanted to use this yarn to do this. Now, it's basically a 2-row repeat, and this is a free pattern. I will put all the links in the show notes. It's double crochets, These eyelet rows are double crocheted, and then these, every other row is this puff stitch, which I've never done a puff stitch before, but oh my gosh, it's so much fun. It's not as puffy in this yarn as it is in her yarn that she uses, but I'm just having so much fun making it. Like, I don't even care. So the whole concept is you basically make a long rectangle, and then you put a button on one corner, and then it wraps around. This is not obviously nearly long enough yet, but it will eventually wrap around and button, and then it'll be long enough that this part will be in the front and this will be in the back, and you'll have like kind of as a V there where it buttons. So, and then you can just button it into, one of the holes in the fabric. So I'm having a lot of fun. Now, here's the problem. I was going to town on this because it was very easy to memorize. And I was just going. And I got done with the first ball of yarn. And I laid it out to measure it to see how long it was. And I realized it looked a little wonky. It did not look like a rectangle. If you can see these two stitch markers that I have on the ends of that one row, that was the point at which it ceased to be a rectangle and started going in. And I realized as I counted things, I had lost some stitches. I think I lost the edge stitches and kind of had gone in a couple of different times. And I thought, okay, this is going to be wrapped around my neck. It probably doesn't matter. Nobody's going to really notice it. But it was one of those things that was like, I'm going to know it and it's going to bug me. So I ended up ripping out. Okay, so let's see. Where is here, okay. Here's where I joined. So this would have been the point at which I realized that I had goofed up. I ripped from here all the way back down to here. And I have obviously since recrocheted that amount plus that much into the second ball. I don't know if I'll end up using all of this. It depends on how long it takes me to get to the length that I need. But it should use most of it. Those puff stitches use a ton of yarn. And you're not really seeing the puff stitch as well as I can see it, just because of how the camera's picking it up. Maybe when I take finished object pictures of it eventually, but yeah. It's just a lot of fun. I'm using a G hook. The pattern calls for an H, but again, she was using a larger weight yarn, definitely a worsted weight than the Rowan felted tweed. So it's working out fine with a G. Okay, speaking of crochet, I got to a point when I was working on this. Bill and I had sat one evening. We watched a movie. I don't remember what movie it was. Oh, I think it was the Banshees of Inisherin. Really weird movie. Kind of depressing. But anyway, I was knitting on this the entire time through that movie. And it was a fairly long movie. And I woke up the next morning and I had this knot in my shoulder, like in my back by my shoulder blade, from having been working on that the entire time through that movie. So I thought I need to take a rest from knitting for a little bit. So I decided I was just going to start crocheting granny squares, because you know what? Granny square, crochet in general, to me, is very relaxing. It's a rhythmic motion. I mean, knitting is too, but for whatever reason, crochet has a more fluid rhythmic motion to it than knitting does, and I like crocheting for that reason. I'm not great at crochet. I'm getting better the more I do it. But like, I love the rhythm of crochet and I find it really relaxing. And so I just went in my stash. I went into my leftovers of like DK and worsted weight yarns, and I pulled out all of my worsted weight yarn leftovers. And I started crocheting granny squares. Lots of them. Lots of them. And I got through all of my worsted weight leftovers. And I wanted to keep doing worsted weight because at that point I had probably like 36, 37 of these things. And I thought, well, if I want to make it big enough to do something with, I'd like it to all kind of be the same weight of yarn. And so I started going through, actually, I take that back. I did try doing DK. It was turning out a little smaller, plus I had to go down a hook size. I had been using an H. I went down to a G. And it was fine, but it did make the squares like about 1/4 of an inch smaller. So I wasn't sure how that would work. So I didn't want to use the DK at that point. So I went through my entire stash looking for single skeins of worsted weight yarn, superwash worsted weight yarn. I couldn't find any more than 3. I had 3 skeins of worsted weight yarn. This one, which I'm pretty sure it wasn't labeled, but I'm 99.9% sure this is my cozy weight base. And I dyed this and it's Wisp. So I've had this. I've got this, which is a Leading Men Fiber Arts, whatever their superwash worsted weight base is. I can't remember off the top of my head. And this was called 911 Butterfly, I think was the colorway name. So I have this one. And then I have this, which is, I can't remember. I'll put it down here. I don't remember the dyer. This is some yarn I got from an Indie Knit and Spin many years ago. And I had actually knit it into a scarf. It was one of those potato chip scarves. Do you remember those? I only had 1 skein of it though, so it turned out way too short to ever actually wear it. And then I ripped it out and I just had it back in a ball of yarn. And so I used it for these. So between all of the worsted weight leftovers, and then those 3 skeins of yarn, which I still am finishing up this one. I haven't finished that one yet. I've probably got, I'd say, another 4 or 5 squares worth. I have a bag of granny squares. Like this bag is probably full up to about here. Beyond the 2nd tier of hedgehogs. I haven't counted them in quite a while. I would say I'm probably at least at 100. I don't have any idea what these are going to become. Probably a blanket. That's my guess. I don't know what I'm going to well, I do know what I'm going to do. I'm going to start using my DK weight leftovers because at this point I don't care if they're not all exactly the same size. That little 1/4 of an inch extra, I will just, when I put them together, I will just line them up so that I can have all the same size in the same row, and I will adjust however I have to for whatever the edges do, you know, when I try to put it together. I'm just not that worried about it because it's obviously a really crazy, weird project anyway. And I have woven in none of these ends. And I know I can probably crochet these in whenever I'm putting them together, but the center ones I definitely have to weave in. So that'll be a project all unto itself. But yeah, I've got a massive quantity of tiny little, approximately 4-inch granny squares that I have just been finding immense delight and pleasure in making, even though they have no real plan. You don't always need a plan. You just need yarn and the desire to make something. So that's what I've been working on. And you know what? The granny squares have been a really good project for me right now because I've been so busy dyeing and doing a lot of work stuff and a lot of other planning stuff that I need to be doing right now for a vacation that Bill and I are going to be taking at the end of May. My brain is like, there's just not a lot of extra to be focusing on any other projects. And so those granny squares have sort of taken the place of my normal mindless knitting, which is usually a sock. I'm actually not working on any socks right now, which is weird for me. I am still knitting some colorway samples, which are sort of like doing just sock cuffs. But even those, I haven't had any of those on the go for a week or two either. So I do have a couple coming up though. But yeah, they've been a great just fill in without having to like put a lot of thought into anything, and I'm really enjoying it. Okay, so last thing I wanted to talk to you about craft-wise is I did pull out a bag of yarn that will be my April personal stash yarn challenge yarn. I haven't opened it yet though, and I wanted to do that with you here because I just reach in the bin and pull a bag out at random with my eyes closed, and this is what I got. Obviously, it's sort of a fallish bag, which makes me wonder if my husband might have, like when he was putting the yarn in the bags for me, if he might have like put the fall bag with some fall colored yarn. I honestly don't remember what yarn I even gave him at this point. But let's find out what's in here. The bag will not unzip. Oh, there we go. Oh, cool. This is more yarn from that same Maine trip that I got the Maddfuzzy yarn, but I got this at a totally different place. This is Home of Frolicking Feet from Dun Roving Yarns, which I actually think that was the name of the shop, Dun Roving in Maine. This is Seal Island. Oh, I think that's the colorway. Yep, never mind. All right, it is 100% domestic superwash merino. 480 yards, and I think they're both the same thing. Yep. This is a one of a kind bluish color, and then this one is called Seal Island. And I bought them specifically, I think I bought them with a shawl in mind, although I could weave with these too. I probably won't. I think I had a shawl in mind. And I don't have a specific shawl in mind, so we'll see what I end up making. If another design comes out of it, or if I just find a shawl that I like. But I just loved all the colors in this. It's mostly blues, although there is like a little bit of a purpley speckle in there. I wonder if that, oh yeah, there's little purple speckles and yellow speckles. I'm going to have to look up Seal Island to see. I'm assuming that's maybe a Seal Island is off of Maine. I don't know. I honestly don't know. Anyway, okay, so that will be my April challenge yarn. And I haven't been mentioning it as I go through here, but a lot of my projects that have been with stash yarn all technically qualify for the A Stitch in Time make-along that Carol's doing this year, which is another year of stash. And then my monthly yarns that I'm pulling also go with her Yarn of the Month component to that make-along. So I am behind in posting my things to her group, but eventually I will hopefully get them in there in time for them to qualify for whatever month it's supposed to. So yeah, I'm doing that. And I mean, even though most of these things also go with my soy mal goals that I set for myself, obviously I don't get prizes for my own make-along. I will say though, since we're now almost through March, I do have plans to do a special video to update you on how my soy mal goals have gone this first quarter of the year. So you will probably see a little bit of a revisitation of some of these projects and just an update in general on how I'm doing and some of the goals that I might have changed. So that will be coming soon, probably within the next couple of weeks. That's my plan. Okay, so speaking of the soy mal, which is short for Stop Shooting on Yourself, I do have, again, as I mentioned at the beginning, I will have the March prize winners, the cheddar thread, finished object thread, and Instagram tag winner to announce tomorrow as of April 1st. No fooling. So I will record the prize winner segment tomorrow morning and I will insert it here. But what I will at least tell you what the prize choices are. And this month, the prize choices are going to be a set of minis from any of the 3 Wild Atlantic colorways. So that was the Wild Atlantic Pie palette colorway. So Wild Atlantic minis, the Wild Atlantic Pub Vibes minis, or the Wild Atlantic Wildflowers minis. And I will have hopefully put pictures of all 3 of those in here as I said them. You can choose whichever mini set you would like, whichever colorways, and you can choose it from Bounce, Bedazzled, Mountain Tweed Merino Fingering, or Cozy Worsted Weight. And if I don't have the one that you choose on hand, I will dye it up for you and send it to you. So those are your prize choices. And now I will insert the announcement of the winners. Hi there, it is Saturday morning. Lisa here as promised on April 1st to announce the March Soy Mal winners. So we have 3 of them. I already announced what the prizes are and what you need to do. If you're one of the winners, just follow those directions. Email me with all that information and I can get your prize to you. All right, so first we have the chatter winner. We had posts 799 through 1248. Those were all the March chatter posts in that thread. And random number generator chose post number 910, who is Prairie Poet, and that is Jane. So congratulations, Jane. All right, the next one up is the finished object winner. Posts 101 through 142 in the finished object thread. Those were the March finished objects that were submitted, and random number generator chose post number 112, who is M's Little Nest, and that's Emma, and she knit the cutest little pair of pantlets for her granddaughter. So congratulations, Emma. And lastly is the Instagram hashtag, which is 90K Soy Mal. And we had 27 Instagram tags in March. From 1 through 27, random number generator chose number 4, and that is PA Knitwit, who is Sarah, and she posted a picture of her in progress love note, which is beautiful. So anyway, congratulations to the 3 of you, Sarah, Emma, and Jane. Again, email me, let me know you won, tell me which mini set colorway you want and on which base, and make sure I have your mailing address and I will get those out to you. And that's it. So we're done with prizes until April, and I'm now going to send you back to yesterday, Lisa, to finish the rest of the episode. Bye. Okay, so if you were one of those winners, in case I didn't say it in that segment, please email me at lisa@fibernymphdyworks.com and let me know that you won. Let me know which mini set you want and on which yarn base, and let me know your mailing address. And I'll get that out to you. So yay! And if you haven't started taking part in the Stop Shoulding on Yourself make-along with us this year, it is never too late. All of the information is in the Ravelry group. It is also in the Fiber Nymph Dye Works blog on my website. And I did a video here on YouTube about it earlier this year that I will link up above wherever that ends up showing up for you. So yeah, you can always join in. We'd love to have you along. Okay, I think that brings us to shop news, which I already talked a little bit about. The Middle Earth Winter Holiday Countdown collections are up for pre-order right now. All of the information is in the listing in the shop, which will be linked down below. Pre-orders will be open at least through June 15th. Some of the things are available on a limited basis, so if you want those, you might want to jump on them quicker. Yeah, I'm super excited about the color palette for this. These are all going to be variegated in tonal colorways. The Day 25, as always, is going to be a self-striping if it's yarn. It'll be variegated if it is the fiber that you choose. And again, there will be no pattern in this year's collection. I'm not designing a pattern for this year. And I'm not doing like the specific bag of extras, the little baggie of extras that I've done in the past couple of years, but there will be little extra goodies here and there in with your daily package, just here and there. So something to look forward to. But again, the big extra is that early access. It's almost like a pre-order for colorways that are going to be coming out this year for the Middle Earth Imagined collection that I'm going to be doing. There will be at least 4 releases that will probably each have more than one colorway. So you have that, and you'll have the 15% discount off of any of those if you pre-order them from your special pre-order. So I'm excited. Have I said that a lot? I feel like I've said that a lot. I'll stop saying that, but I am, really. Okay, so I mentioned I'm going to be putting woven things in the shop, and I showed you these two items that I just wove. The short little, it's a little short to be a table runner, so we'll call it a mat. This one is more of a table runner size, which I keep showing it. I guess I have to put it in the shop now. The ends will actually be woven into that before I put it in the shop. But I have 4 other things that are going to be going into the shop, including this one. And you know what? I finally just realized, Lisa, you have got to stop making things more complicated than they need to be, because I have scarves that I've woven and I wanted to put in the shop. Then I'm like, I don't know what to do with the fringe. And it's like, just leave it as fringe. I like my shawls with just fringe. I don't need to fringe twist. It's fine. So that's what these are going to be. So this is that pretty patchwork color block scarf that I did earlier this year. These are all Fiber Dye Works yarns in here, and I trimmed the fringe. So this one is, again, this is a shorter scarf. Obviously I'll have modeled pictures in the listings and the dimensions, and I'm putting this on very badly here at the moment. But I just wanted to give you an idea. Okay. So this is DK weight, so this is a little bit heavier. So this one will be going into the shop. This one is going to go into the shop. I was so tempted to keep this too. This is the problem with like weaving things and then being like, I love it, it's my precious. This is the one I did out of hand spun, and I adore how this turned out. So this was that River's Edge yarn that I hand spun, and then I wove it up into a scarf. It too is a shorter scarf, but it's got that sea cell in it, and it's so soft. Oh my gosh, just love it. So that one will be in the shop. Then I have this one, and I did this one a year or 2 ago maybe. And it's, these are not my yarns. These were just in my stash, but they are superwash, and it's really soft, subtle colors. You can see that in there. But it's just a little plaid that I did. And that too, I was just holding on to it because I was like, I don't know what to do with the fringe. It's just fringe. It's just fringe. It's fine. If people don't like just plain fringe, then they obviously aren't going to want the scarves, and that's okay too. Everything isn't for everybody, right? And then the last item, oh my gosh, if you guys have been around for a while, you might remember this. I wove this several years ago now. It was going to be a Christmas present for a friend of mine, but then I decided to go a completely different direction with her Christmas gift, so she didn't get it. It is a table runner that I wove. And if I remember right, yeah, it's a little irregular. Like the patterning is not perfect. It's like, here's one of these, and then there's 2, and then there's 3. But you know what? It doesn't have to be a regular pattern. But I am putting it in the shop. It's hand woven, it's a table runner, and I beaded this fringe. So this fringe has some beads on it, wooden beads, which I just think super cool. So that is the culmination of the items that I'm going to be putting into the shop that I have hand woven. We'll see how it goes. I've never sold my weaving before, but I'm excited to start doing that. So hopefully if you like one of those, you'd be willing to pick it up, and I'd love to send it to you. Okay, other than that, while I'm prepping for shows, there's probably not going to be a lot going into the shop on a regular basis, because I just need to focus on shows and pre-orders that I'm working on as well. But there will be some things going in, so the best thing I can tell you to do is subscribe to my newsletter if you are not already subscribed. I send that out whenever new things go up in the shop. Usually not more than once a week, occasionally more than once a week, but rarely, and rarely even once a week, to be quite honest. The newsletter subscription link is in my shop. It's several places. It's up at the top. It's down at the very bottom. It's not something I've ever figured out how to link in the show notes, but again, just go to the website and you'll see the newsletter sign up. Yeah, and I also usually post things on Instagram and in the Fiber Nymph Dye Works Facebook group too, so you can check there. But the newsletter is always the best way to find things out, because I usually send that out ahead of putting it anywhere else, almost always. So anyway, all right, I think that is everything I wanted to talk to you about today. I hope you guys are having a good end of your March. And if you're getting the rain that I have today, hopefully you don't have to go out in it. That's all I can say. I need to go do some work, and then I'm going to do some baking because my son's coming up for dinner tonight, and I thought I would make some apple tarts because he likes apple tarts. I like apple tarts too. Anyway, so that's my plan for the rest of the day. Hope you're doing well. As always, a big thank you to those who support the channel by being a member or by donating through Ko-Fi. Both of those links are below if you want to find out more. And yeah, I just really appreciate you for being here and for tuning in. So I will talk to you again hopefully soon. Take care. Bye.